have seen the first 8 episodes of The Bad Batch Season 3 out of 15. So that's a good chunk. That's a little more than half. I have to say, I feel like I've only watched the first third of the season, so I hope they really kick things up a notch for the back 7 episodes, because at the pace we're going, I don't know if we're going fast enough. And I don't think it's going to convert any new fans, but Filoniverse fans like myself, I'm now a Filoniverse fan, thanks to all of you, for those of you who insisted I get into it. I think that you will, as I was, will be very pleased to return to this world. So yes, while the animated series don't generate nearly the same level of chatter or viewership, it's a cold hard fact, as the live action series, but it's which is weird because the Filoni fandom still very much affects the live action series, right? Like if anyone's tweeting about, like, why don't you guys tweet about the animated shows like you do about the live action shows? Everyone tweeting that meme of, Filoni, Filoni in the sky, right? Why aren't you guys doing that for these animated shows? It's very frustrating because I agree with many of you that this is the best Star Wars storytelling. Like, even though you might drag your feet a little bit to get back into it, once you're there, you're like, oh, this is just so good. It's such sweet, sweet Star Wars storytelling. It's just phenomenal. But you know what? They still have one problem left. Filler. If only they get rid of the filler. Speaking of filler, I'm 8 episodes in, and Ventress still has yet to show up. So I hope she's in more than one episode. But yes, filler still plagues the Filoniverse. Of the 8 episodes I'd watched, I'd say that 2, maybe even 3, were completely unnecessary. Particularly 7 and 8. I was like, this is a lot of filler, man. And one of those episodes, by the way, involves Fennec Shand. But since we don't learn anything new about her in that episode, I hold my position that it's a waste of time. I was like, they're like in Star Wars Florida, like on one of those boats with a big fan on the back of it, like the Star Wars equivalent of that. And I'm like, we didn't need to do this. To me, what's most interesting about the Bad Batch is exploring the clones. That's why we're here, man. And that this all seems to be also leading to something big in the world of Star Wars, especially since cloning has now been referenced in the recent movies, The Mandalorian and Obi-Wan Kenobi. So we got to be up to something here. And speaking of being up to something, what's Dr. Hemlock up to? With this being the final season of The Bad Batch, and with the direction of the first 8 episodes, the first 3, this is going to drop 3 right away. That's a pretty nice little movie for you right there. Those were the strongest, I felt. And I'm fairly certain with the direction of those episodes that we're going to find out. We're going to at least get some answers by the end of this season. So I'm very excited for that. So yes, post Order 66, it's been a whole different world for the clones. And the Bad Batch show has been about exploring that. It focuses on our defective and therefore more unique clones, right? And it has added female clones to the mix with not just Omega, but as revealed at the end of season 2, Emery Carr, who's currently working for Dr. Hemlock. What kind of clone behavior is that? And in the first 8 episodes, we see some other clones as well. Originals, they're back. Preteen clones. As someone who didn't watch the Clone Wars animated series, it was hard for me to discern that's what they were at first. So I wish they'd made that a scooch more clear. Can you just jump in to the Bad Batch season 3? I mean, you won't enjoy it as much if you haven't watched the first 2 seasons. But you could. And as also, even for me, someone who didn't watch a lot of the Clone Wars, I've watched Rebels and the Bad Batch show. Those are the 2 shows that I'm into, and I love them. But I haven't gone back and watched all the Clone Wars episodes. I know. So even there, I wish that they could connect it just a little bit more, just a scooch more. But that was cool. I did like that story quite a bit. And, well, you'll see, this is a non-spoiler review, but there is a new, different type of clone, or an evolution of the clones is introduced, which is not only interesting, but pretty darn scary. I was like, that's a clever idea. I like it. I also have a lot of respect for the Bad Batch, and that the Tech is really dead. He has remained dead. There's no like, it was all a dream, or he bounced off of something, or he grabbed onto something. I mean, the season's not done yet, but so far he's dead. I mean, this is a show about war, and it's important to show that there are consequences in war. And on that note, while Tech is gone, his loss still very much looms over the show, this season, as it should. I think that's really, really excellent. And the Bad Batch does have a new team member of sorts, Star Wars' version of a dog. And I'm surprised at just how good an addition it is to the team. Now, some of you will be like, of course it is, Grace. But I've never had a dog, so I don't have any personal experience with them. And so I'm like, oh, that's nice. But I was like, oh, wow. As the season progressed, I was like, that was a good idea. That's excellent. And of course, dogs are used in warfare and have been throughout history. It also brings a nice new dynamic to Star Wars. Not a lot of pets in Star Wars. So I thought that was a great new idea. I was like, oh, this is, are we going to have some Star Wars pet merchandise maybe? I love Omega. And it's great to see her becoming more of a fully fledged member of the Bad Batch unit instead of like first their mission and then their mascot. Now she's like a member. And I think it's great that when it comes, she's got some strong ideas. She's finding her voice. She's often right. I think which I think is great. But when the crap hits the fan and it's time for them to work as a team in battle, she's right in step with everyone else and respects the chain of command. And I love seeing that to showcase women in the military. So I think that's great. So far, besides Omega, this season is really very much focused on Crosshair. And to his credit, he's not using the "I was brainwashed" excuse for his behavior, because it wasn't. He really made those choices and he has to own them. And he made some really, really, really bad choices. In fact, you have to wonder if he can take those actions back, if he can recover from what he did. It's not going to be easy. And the show doesn't make it easy, which is something else that I respect about this season. But when you have a really strong family, you can come back if you do the work. And the clones are a strong family. And so I like seeing that too. Dee Bradley Baker, what a voice actor, that he's able to do a nuanced performance like Crosshair and make him and all the other Bad Batch members all seem so different. I mean, it's incredible that it's all the same actor. Thanks to this being an animated show, these characters can go anywhere and do anything, and the Bad Batch Season 3 takes full advantage of that freedom. And also really raises the stakes. I like how adult a show it is. I think it could still play to all ages to a degree, maybe not all ages, but it's still, it's still an animated show, but it's very much, it's like there's a lot of adult animation right now that's very popular, and I'm glad to see Star Wars kind of shifting their animation in that direction as well. Star Wars is a big universe, and to me, the Bad Batch excels when it focuses on the clones finding their way and place in that universe. And when the show deviates from that or takes a break, I think that's when it's the weakest. So while, again, I'm not in a huge rush to finish, I am from like a coverage perspective, but if I was a fan, the way I've watched past seasons, because the show's not popular enough to do episode breakdowns. So the way I've watched past seasons is that I'll let a couple of them collect and then I'll watch like a short movie, right? Like they're dropping 3 the first night, the first day, but then they're going to go to weekly, and then sometimes they'll drop 2 at a time. It's sporadic, but sometimes you'll just have 1 episode. And so since they're short, I like to, have a couple stack up and then I just watch them all at once. And I know a number of you watch it the same way. And I don't see my viewing habits, if I wasn't waiting for Ventress to show up so I could cover it, otherwise I would be watching the show that same way with season 3. But every time I do get back into the show, including this season, I just love being there so much. And I think it's just it's just really fantastic. I just really love being in the Filoniverse. And I do feel that we're going to get at least some big reveals and answers by the time this season is done. Not really any in the first 8, to be honest with you, but that means the back 7 are going to be jam-packed, right? I hope so. Some of you might disagree that we don't get anything. We kind of do. I don't want to give anything away. I'll be curious to see what your take on it is. So far, I would say fascinating, slow burn. Love it. And also, I've come to love these characters, right? And I hope to see them again. This is the final season of this animated series, but I hope that means that there's a new Filoniverse animated series coming down the line. I would not totally abandon the animated shows because, as you can see, they're doing a lot of the support for the live action. And I feel that they're important, the animated shows, to maintaining the core Star Wars fandom, because maybe they're left alone a little bit more, but there's less meddling maybe from the higher ups. But I really do feel very strongly, as many other Filoniverse fans do, that this is the best Star Wars content. And it's a real shame that more people don't watch it. I wonder if it just is the fact that it's animated. Why do you think that is? It's just fantastic. It's phenomenal stuff. Rebels is still my favorite, but I really do like The Bad Batch quite a bit. All right, so what did you think? What do you think? Share your thoughts down below. Subscribe today. The Bad Batch's first 3 episodes are out now. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.